Hey everyone, Neil here, and I have the lovely Candie from Outdoor Ventures, which is an adventure park across the US, and they were the very first adventure park to be introduced to the US back in 2008 from Switzerland. Before we get into the details of how we've grown their presence online organically, Candie, why don't you do a really quick intro?
Okay, sure. And I have Peanut here as well. So if you hear a little whining or moaning, it's not me. So I'm Candie. I'm VP of Sales and Marketing for Outdoor Ventures Group, and specifically the adventure parks. We have 5 adventure parks in Connecticut, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia currently. And yeah, so we build parks as Outdoor Ventures Group, but operate the adventure park, which we've built as well.
Awesome. And what's your favorite adventure park across the ones that you guys have?
I love them all. No, they're all great. They're all in different areas. The biggest one, I believe, is Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the Virginia Aquarium, a nice kind of sprawling acreage.
Mhm.
But we have a great one in Nashville that's a lot of fun. And then the 2 in Connecticut, as well as one in New York. Just kind of hit that East Coast corridor. So they're all really wonderful.
Sounds wonderful. I'm gonna make sure I put it on my bucket list for when I can get over there. So there's a number of things you guys do outside of just the adventure parks around building and designing. So could you just give us a bit of an overview
Yeah.
of what the company does? That'd be useful, and then who you target.
Yeah, for sure. So the company, we have a couple of different, subsidiaries. We have Outdoor Ventures, which builds and designs adventure parks, both for our own brand, the Adventure Park, as well as others. We have Ropes Park Equipment, which provides equipment, consulting, inspections, things like that to the adventure park industry. And we have Aerial Adventure Academy, which is a training arm for adventure parks as well. And what's interesting about that is, in one way it's a one-stop shop, but really they're individual businesses led by people with that specific expertise. And so, we have somebody specifically in charge of Ropes Park Equipment, for example, that has that expertise in inspections and training and things like that, and not kind of crossing over the different companies. So it's very individualized. So depending on, the business, we're targeting adventure park operators and more a B2B setting. Mostly what I'm working on is the adventure park brand, so targeting primarily consumers in B2C, but we do groups and events and things like that, where it is a more, B2B sale as well. So whether it be schools, camps, corporate, stuff like that.
Yeah. And what are you seeing being really popular at the moment, especially with COVID-19 and less and less places people can enjoy? So what is it? Families that are using the adventure park at the moment, or are you seeing a different type of clientele?
Yeah, I mean, it's across the board. Some people have the perception that an adventure park, which is ropes course, climbing, zip lines, things like that, is really just for kids. But we have a wide variety of age ranges, of customer segments. Our core is probably, parents with children in the, say, 7 to 17 age range. But we have a lot of couples. It's a great date night option. It's a great fitness option. We have bachelorette parties. It really kind of runs the gamut of, the types of people that do come to the park. This year we've probably seen less groups than we would, with schools being closed, camps being closed, but normally that's a big segment of ours as well.
Got it. Okay, so we started working together beginning of this year, wasn't it? It's around January, February 2020. So just explain to us, before you got in touch, what were you doing online, and where is it you were looking for help with?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I started with the adventure park last July. So a lot of the time before I contacted y'all was, kind of learning and understanding the business and where we were at. I would say from an SEO perspective, we had a couple of challenges. One, we were migrating from 5 6 individual websites to a single website, and we didn't know how that was going to impact our traffic. And so that was a big consideration. And then just some decisions that we had made in the past season had impacted our organic traffic. Not in the best way. So wanting to, overcome that and kind of get everything back on the right track. So, that was really what led me to reach out to you guys on a recommendation from someone that I've worked with in the past. And so, it's been really successful, I feel like, thus far.
Do you remember what one of those bad decisions was? I know I'm going really back in history, but do you remember any of those particular moments where
it was just some decisions in terms of taking certain pages off of our website. So yeah, it was prior to me. I don't really want to, call anything specific out, but yeah, just some things that, had more analysis been done of how that was driving traffic. Probably not something that I personally would have chosen to do.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting campaign actually, because for those that are watching this or listening in, Candie and the adventure park runs 5 or 6 adventure parks, as you heard in the intro, across the US. So they had a presence for each individual adventure park, which there's a immediate pro, which is it's very clear, it's simple for that person who's visiting that one site to look at that one adventure park. The con, the disadvantage of that is you've now got 5 or 6 websites that you now need to maintain. You've got content duplication issues potentially. You're talking about adventure parks that you own as one brand, but they're all separate. So how do you make sure there's a consistent tone of voice? Suddenly it just multiplies a lot of your efforts. Having to maintain so many sites, you've got the duplicate content issues. And then more importantly, you're not consolidating the authority of your one brand under one roof. Yeah. So, the duplicate was an issue. There were some technical issues, I remember. And that's very common that we work when we work with brands to see that. I guess in your situation, it just was multiplied because you've got so many different properties online. So, I think it's been a really smart move. I think it's been a great move to actually bring and consolidate those adventure parks all under one roof. There's a ton of work still needs to happen, but it's definitely a right place to move strategically from 5 or 6, whatever it was, to one, right? And it was that move where, like you said, it was that move where I remember, that's where we really got involved to understand the kind of thinking behind the move. There's architecturing implications, there's content implications, there's how does the user move through the site implications. How did you feel back then when you were like thinking about all this stuff? Because you're smiling now, but I recall at the time you were like, guys, we've got to do this. Yeah. Do you recall how you felt?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely challenging. And, the move to consolidate the sites was in motion before I started. So I definitely can take credit for that. But how we were going about it, and specifically the fact that we were initially intending to move to what was our corporate site in the treetops.com, which didn't really rank for adventure park because it didn't. So we ended up going with a new domain name, myadventurepark.com. So the idea of making that transition with a completely new domain and doing it right as a pandemic was about to occur was pretty nerve-wracking, I would say.
And to be honest, it's nerve-wracking for me as well when you see 5 or 6 separate websites actually doing okay organically. Like it's not like they were brand new sites. They had been around for a long time. Google knew about them. They were still ranking organically. And to switch to an entire new domain which has no history, has no Google love, that isn't the most exciting of moments, right? You're kind of like gripping the chair whilst watching what happens. But one word of I guess advice of anyone that's watching this and going through the same type of situation is you can de-risk it by phasing that approach. And that's one thing we we went in and said, look, we need to phase this. We don't want to just delete one and go here straight away. We need to move strategically because, you know, things happen, mistakes happen. We want to do each one individually, right? As opposed to all 6 go away and then to the new site. So yeah, no, that was great, I guess, going through that motion in Q1 or moving into Q2 as well this year.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the other thing for us is that, you know, we had been working on this transition, but every time it was almost time to pull the trigger, there was a reason that we needed to pause. For example, in the fourth quarter, we had our big holiday sale and we didn't want to, you know, make this change right before that and, you know, have that risk. And then moving into, sorry, I have some flies in here. Moving into Q1, you know, similarly, you know, we wanted to get it done before the parks all open so that if we did take an inevitable dip in traffic, that we had a chance to recover that before. So there was always kind of a the timing of it was always kind of top of mind.
Yeah, you're right. And it's nice to see, I was looking at the analytics earlier today. It's nice to see that things start to kick in towards summer, right? Like that's really when it started to kick in, which is a dream, which is basically what we were trying to plan for. To an extent, it's not in our control. So yeah, it's definitely good timing. And I'm sitting on a wooden desk, so touching wood as we speak. So we carry on going upwards. You know, so when we started working, we kind of focused on the strategic side of the migration, how it's going to work, like how it's going to switch over, the content changes, so optimizing the content. Some of the layout just needed a bit of tweaking or user experience needed improving. I guess from that initial phase of work and working with us, you know, what results did you see? What things kind of were a highlight to you when you started working with us and saw the work being implemented?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you guys have been really great to work with, very on top of things, very much strategic and kind of planning ahead in terms of what we want to do for a particular month, particularly around the blog posts and other things that I would not have necessarily thought to do in terms of, you know, either Google listings or new things that Google is ranking on that and I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what those are, but really very proactive in making suggestions of how we can improve our traffic. I think that some of the bigger things were the home pages for each park, really going through and developing unique content, unique copy for each of those. I think that was a really important thing because all of our home pages had exactly the same copy on them, as well as kind of identifying our highest traffic pages and really building those out. And with links and cross links and things like that to drive more traffic. I think those things have been very successful. You know, it's one thing to look at it month on month because, you know, obviously traffic in general has increased tremendously. But when I look at it year over year, not only has our traffic to the sites increased, but our conversions have increased, our time on page, our bounce rate has decreased. Like all the metrics that you would want to look at have improved on a year over year basis.
Amazing.
So I'm happy.
That's great. So I don't need to edit any of this out, basically, do I? So no, I really appreciate that, and I'll pass that over to the team as well. Just on that, so you talk about bounce rate, you know, going down, engagement going up, the quality of the inquiries going up, and the bookings. And you talked about content as well. Why do you think that is the case? Why do you think that's happened?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think one of the things that's nice is that you all are partners with our digital agency as well. And so it's kind of more of a holistic effort. So I can attribute a lot of it to the organic side, but also, you know, Push has done an amazing job on the pay-per-clicks and all that. I think that, in launching the new website, we were probably more thoughtful in terms of how people navigate the site, keeping the content updated, making sure we had information that people would be looking for, whether they were considering a purchase or they've already purchased and kind of planning their visit. So I think just the quality of what we have on our site has improved. And then, we have a lot of blog posts now that have relevant content that we started in Q1, which we did not have in the past. So, kind of making it also a site that people are interested in coming back to. When I send a newsletter, it's not the same, like, hey, check out our hours. Hey, check it out. There's other things to engage people with.
You're right. That's actually really important for me. It's sending out messages that aren't necessarily the generic, hey, we've got a discount on, or hey, we're open these hours and we want more, we want you to buy, basically. But it's actually sharing valuable content, which happens to be things people are searching for anyway. So now we're killing two birds with one stone, right?
Exactly.
So, and just to clarify, when you said us working with your digital agency, so we're managing the content, the SEO, the organic, and then we're working with a company that does paid advertising. So what's really interesting is this is a true, integrated search campaign where there's paid ads and there's organic search coming together. And those two can work in harmony. There's a common question or common kind of myth that the two compete, but actually they can work in harmony and they just increase your market share. So that's great to hear. From a content point of view, is there any particular content that comes to mind when you think about content, or some of the content that Julie's written? Is there anything that piqued your interest when she wrote it?
I think Julie's done a great job with all of the content. I think what's nice about working with you all is that I will write blog posts here and there, but they will be short and they will not be super optimized. It'll be just to kind of meet a certain need at the moment. Whereas Julie's are much more researched. They are, more strategic, and there's a lot more long form content than I would write on my own. Just not having necessarily time to do that or or the skill. So yeah, she's been really great about suggesting articles, kind of how do we make things better, getting clarification. She produces more content than I can even, approve, I feel like sometimes. So she's been really prolific in creating stuff for us.
Amazing. We should send her on a zip line.
That's what we talked about.
Did you really?
Yeah, getting her and Daniel and probably Chris out to maybe Nashville and getting on.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I really want to join you guys.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I've done it once. I did it in Thailand, and I nearly I nearly didn't do it. I was like panicking, watching the zip line and looking at the other side, and my wife was like, Neil, come on, man up. And then she just went, and then I was like, okay, I can't not do it now. So yeah, I loved it. And then I did I did all of them. So I'm definitely up for it if I can get over there soon enough.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great things about Julie is that she understands, we want to rank obviously for keywords around zip lines, but we're not a zip line park exclusively. We have the ropes courses and other climbing and things like that. And so she has the ability to convey that, still help us rank for those keywords, but also convey to the reader that this is more than just a zip line course or a zip line park.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point, because what I find is brands, they know or businesses, they know what it is they do. They know who they're targeting. They're able to communicate it, in person. But the minute it goes online, there's almost like this blockage and this confusion of, how do I actually convey this to my audience online? How do I actually get this across that we're not just a zipline company? Now, clearly your site has a large zipline across the homepage. However, which I think is a fitting image, but at the same time, it's about now building that story out and going, we're a lot more. Yeah. So, it's one of those things that it's easy to talk about, but actually hard to do until you really know you bring the two together, right? You know what the brand is all about, but then
Yeah.
you're able to communicate and like get that messaging concise, and bring the two together, right?
Yeah, and I think you guys did a good job up front of really trying to understand the brand and not make assumptions, which sometimes happens, when we work with outside resources that, oh yeah, you guys do zip lines, we'll write all about zip lines or whatever the case may be. So really understanding our business, who our customer segments are, who are we talking to? I also feel like Julie really grasps our core customer, which is, a mom with kids, probably in her say mid 30s to 40s, and really writes in a tone of voice that resonates, that's on brand and resonates with, our core customer.
Perfect, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. So, would you recommend us?
Yeah, I would. No, you guys have been great to work with. I mean, look forward to seeing what we continue to do, especially going to holiday season. That's really what we're planning now. Like, how do we use SEO to drive traffic during holiday season, which we really haven't done in the past. So
I think it's the content. The content now needs to switch towards that holiday season. So that'll be interesting how we look at maybe even trends, right? There's going to be trends for different searches. So it's trying to analyze and identify the right trends, match it with SEO, match it to your target audience, and then create those content stories around that. So I really appreciate it. I was looking at your YouTube channel, but just before we kind of close out here, and I noticed you had a video with is it your son?
Oh yeah,
where,
yeah,
where you're talking about how to build an adventure park, which I thought was really engaging. So question for you: I'm in the US. I'm looking to build an adventure park. What's your number one tip?
To build a real adventure park?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say.
On that question, so I've got a 3-year-old as well.
Yeah.
So give me 2 tips. One is to build a real one, and then the other is for Sienna to build an adventure park, because I'm going to try and do it.
Yeah. So for your 3-year-old, I would say try not to do it during a pandemic where you can't go to the store and get any materials, because that made it definitely much more challenging. But it's fun to do, and kind of Legos are really the key to the whole thing.
Okay.
But as far as building an adventure park, in real life, I mean, I would say Bauman, who's our founder CEO, has been the kind of leader and somewhat founder of this industry in the US. And I would say talk to him, because there's no one you're going to find that's more passionate about it, and really, thinks about it in a way that really connects with the end user. Mm-hmm. And really what they're going to experience. So that's why I think our parks are so successful. A lot of it has to do with the design and kind of the quality of the build that Outdoor Ventures did.
Amazing. Well, you sold it to me. Where can people find out more about you guys, Candie?
So for the adventure park, myadventurepark.com is the best place to go. And then if you want to learn more about the broader business, outdoorventures.us is our website there. So you can look into more of the design, build, inspections, things like that.
Perfect. I'm going to link to both of those sites in the show notes below in the description. But outside of that, thanks a lot for your time, your feedback as well. And we're going to publish this and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. It's been, thank you for including me in this.